In this video, I will cover the Fuji XT4 announcement with actual camera footage.
Delivering informative capability-based reviews and tutorials on camera gear, filming techniques, and content creation.
It's Simon from The Ordinary Filmmaker. If you're new here, make sure you click that subscribe button, and all the links to everything I talk about in this video are in the description down below. Fuji announced the XT4 in the early hours of the morning, New York time. Everything is pretty much in line with what I stated in this video. The XT4 comes in two colors, the all-black finish and the two-tone silver with black, which is my personal favorite, a modern camera with that retro look. I just love it. There are three options for each color: body only, body with the 18 to 55, and body with the weather-resistant 16 to 80 lens. Yep, you heard correctly. The XT4 is weather-resistant, but it does need to be paired with a weather-resistant lens to take advantage of the full capability. I'm always shooting in the cold and damp conditions and don't like to take my chances. This is a more common shooting scenario for the ordinary filmmaker than many believe, and a much appreciated enhancement. The camera looks and feels much like the XT3. It has the same 26 megapixel X-Trans CMOS sensor as the XT3, and it contains the same quad-core X processor. Some viewers are disappointed by the lack of upgrade of the sensor and processor. But don't let this get you down. The X-Trans 4 sensor is a very good and capable sensor. There are a lot of refinements that make this camera a must-have update over the XT3 for video shooters. It's heavy on features found on most expensive cameras. Fuji does not offer a full-frame sensor they are saving technology for. Unlike other companies, they're giving their heart and soul into the XT4, and it shows. The grip is wider, which is good news for those of us with big hands. I never felt that the XT3 grip was all that comfortable. Most of the buttons and dials are in the same place, but there have been some minor tweaks adding to the user experience. We now have a dedicated movie and photo switch under the shutter speed dial where the metering selection used to be. We have a separate setting for video and photos, including custom settings. There's also an autofocus button on the back, and the drive dial has been improved to make it easier to access the capabilities. Button functionality can be changed in the menus if you don't like how Fuji has set things up. While the XT4 does not come with a headphone jack on the body itself, it provides a USB dongle to allow us to connect headphones. Yeah, no one likes dongles, just ask Apple, but it is possible to get the headphone jack by purchasing the battery grip. In the menus, you can specify if a mic is line in or mic to get the best quality possible with your gear. USB port charging provides unlimited power during studio use. The XT4 has the dual UHS 2 SD card slots, and video can be recorded to both card slots at the same time in the same format with full sensor coverage. Oh, and the door to the SD cards? It's removable for some reason. We get the new MPW235 high-performance lithium-ion battery. The default method, however, to charge the battery is through the USB-C port. Fuji does offer an optional, extra charge, 2-port charger for purchase if you do not want to charge through the camera. The optional battery grip provides 2 additional battery slots, providing you with up to 1,700 slots on a single charge, and brings back that headphone jack. If you hate dongles and just want your headphone jack back, well, consider getting that battery pack. While it makes the camera heavier, the extra weight also helps keep the video more smooth. Oh, one last note on the battery. Battery age can be checked in the menus. The XT4 comes with in-body image stabilization, 5-axis, 6.5 stops of stabilization. The degree of stabilization will depend on the lens attached. 18 out of 29 lenses provide full 6.5 stops of stabilization. The rest, not to the same degree. Fuji refined the architecture to include image stabilization. It offers many new components, including new materials compared to the XH1. It's 20% lighter and 30% smaller. There's refinement to the shutter's shock-absorbing structure and the newly developed gyro sensors that boost approximately 8 times the detection accuracy of the XH1 in-body image stabilization unit. And that's good news. This was not just merely a lift and move. The XH1 implementation was wonky. It always felt like the camera was possessed, like it was trying to take control. The XT4 resolves those issues. in-body image stabilization is excellent in video when shooting pans, tilts, and walking shots. It feels natural. Fuji improved upon the technology using magnetic force rather than springs. In-body image stabilization is a very significant feature for video shooters, and the initial videos show that this feature works very well. Fuji goes on to say that IBIS is effective when combined with electronic image stabilization function for use in video mode and brings even more image stabilization. This is essential for users shooting video while walking. Yeah, I'm not so sure about that. I've never really liked electronic stabilization. I doubt I will like it, but early results look good and maybe I'm wrong. The problem I have with electronic or digital stabilization is that it can create warping that cannot be undone. I recommend shooting without electronic stabilization and applying it in post, but if you're going to use it, check your footage after shooting. As I just mentioned, the shutter was redesigned to make way for in-body image stabilization. It makes less noise than the XT4 and it's faster. Continuous shooting improves to 15 frames per second, and that's up from 11 frames per second. The silent electronic shutter provides 20 frames full sensor readout and 30 frames crop sensor readout. The buffer has also increased. At 8 frames per second, we get 200 JPEG, 49 compressed RAW, and 39 uncompressed RAW. In compressed mode, you can choose lossless compression and have the option of creating 8-bit and 16-bit TIFF files. Fuji has greatly improved autofocus on the XT4. Using a new algorithm, the camera is capable of capturing and tracking a moving subject at high speed, even when combined with the continuous shooting performance of 15 frames per second through the viewfinder and 8 frames per second in live view. The autofocus for subject tracking is very sticky. Touch an object and it stays with it. Eye and face detection work very well, but if you have eye detection turned on and try to track an object, you'll need to turn off face detection as it prioritizes face tracking over object tracking. The XT4 maintains eye lock back to about 15 feet and performs well when the subject moves out of frame and then back again. Tracking autofocus performance has also undergone serious enhancement. The tracking success rate has been doubled compared to its predecessor. Face and eye autofocus performance has also been dramatically improved over the XT4. Fuji has separated the stills and video modes, and the video-only quick menu button enhances the camera's simplicity while recording video. Fuji really thought through the workflow in this iteration, refining every aspect of the camera, giving careful attention to video. We can now adjust exposure with the command dial as well as the touchscreen. This allows us to easily switch between stills and video recording and have separate settings for both. As a primary video shooter, Fuji is showing the love. For Canon and Nikon owners, we have often felt like we were riding in economy while still shooters were riding up front in first class with lay-flat beds. I know this will anger some still shooters, but you have the option of sticking with the XT4 as you will not see much in terms of photo capability improvements with this iteration. The touchscreen panel is redesigned, providing a fully articulated flip screen like the Canon EOS R. This greatly improves the user experience for video shooters. There is a little change in the video modes. The XT4 comes with 4K 60 and all the basic frame rates including 24, 25 and 30 frames per second. But there is a slight crop in 4K 60 of 1.29. So yeah, the same as the XT4. We still have recording units, but the times have been bumped up to something more usable. We get 20 minutes in DCI 4K, 30 minutes in UHD 4K, and 30 minutes in 1080. This is ideal for YouTube content creators and other studio work. But why couldn't they just eliminate the record times? That's what I'd like to know. Slow motion gets a big improvement. In 1080, 240 frames per second is possible up to 3 minutes of record time. 6 minutes of record time is possible in 120 frames per second. There have been a few negative comments about the limited record times, but for most of us, we don't shoot more than, a minute or two of slow motion at a time? For me, most of the time, I don't shoot more than 10 to 30 seconds. 3 minutes is enough to capture what I need. I've been complaining for years at the lack of 120 frames per second on Canon cameras, and when Canon finally added 120 in the 90D, autofocus was locked. With the XT4, we get 240 frames per second with autofocus. But is it as good as Canon's autofocus? Well, give me a Canon with autofocus in 120 that doesn't cost $6,500 and I'll let you know. This is a very nice improvement. I'd probably shoot in 120 most of the time for better quality. The XT4 adds 2 new film simulation modes, Classic Negative and Eterna Bleach Bypass. The new Bleach Bypass mode is a traditional processing technique that creates a low saturation and high contrast look. DP Review does not care for this look very much, and I did not at first, but it comes in handy in some scenarios. I have come to appreciate the look. I love how Bleach Bypass puts the focus on the subject, how it creates a retro look, an end of the world or Mad Max look. The movie Endless uses this technique very well, though it adds its own color grade, further enhancing the look. Internal recording 4K 60 provides 10-bit 420 internal recording, but ups color sampling to 422 over external recording over the HDMI port. I like that Fuji gives us a choice of recording video in all-I and H.265 in any resolution. Want to shoot H.265 in 1080? No problem. Oh, and this camera can top out at 400 megabits a second, so if you want detailed video, the camera can deliver. For log shooters, the XT4 makes your life easier with Assist Mode. When Assist Mode is on, the LCD outputs using Rec. 709. This is a very nice improvement. Time-lapse received a much-needed improvement. With exposure smoothing, the footage no longer seems jerky from inconsistently changing exposure levels. Very nice. I wish all cameras would do this. Oh, and rolling shutter is not a big problem due to the smaller APS-C sensor and the camera's ability to move large amounts of data. One could argue that Canon has more and better glass for the ordinary filmmaker and still shooter, as well as pro shooters. But with IBIS, Fuji has a deep enough lineup to cover your photo and filmmaking needs. Should you want to produce cinema-level quality? Fujinon cinema lenses offer edge-to-edge sharpness and excellent portability. The Fujinon cinema lenses suppress focus shift while zooming and reduce lens breathing during focusing, something photographic lenses do not do. So yes, one can argue that Canon has better lenses, but one cannot successfully argue that Fuji does not provide the ordinary filmmaker with the required filmmaking tools to grow and become more than the ordinary filmmaker. As I stated in my earlier video, 6K and 8K are not required capabilities for most ordinary filmmakers or video shooters. I understand how useful 8K is for grabbing stills from burst video and delivering incredible images through the use of computational power. It provides more detailed 4K output through downsampling. For the ordinary filmmaker, these features would add weight, heat, and cost. Sure, I'd like to see an XT4 Pro version as the S1H is to the S1, but I'd also like to see it on a full-frame sensor, which Fuji does not believe in supporting. So far, only 2 companies have announced 8K and hybrid cameras. Sharp is in its early prototype stage, and Canon issued a development announcement. Boiling the ocean costs money. Giving us every specification costs us money. The EOS R5 is expected to cost at least $3,500 for the body alone. Would you be happy if the XT4 came with 8K or 6K, but the price of the body jumped by $2,000? Fujifilm's vision is to further hone our leading-edge proprietary technologies and develop innovative products and services that gain customer trust and provide satisfaction to remain a vigorous company, consistently creating new value and exercising pioneering leadership. With the XT4, the vision is translated down to the camera's capabilities, the outcomes that it can produce. There were some gaps in the XT3. The XT4 needed IBIS, improved autofocus subject tracking, better video record limits, and general refinement across existing capabilities to be a success. It's done all of that. These are the capabilities that I need in my workflow. It scores well in all categories. It's on my shortlist as a replacement for my Canon 70D. However, your capabilities might be different from mine. Come up with your own capability map and heat map. Score the XT4 against your desired outcomes. This camera should easily dethrone the Panasonic GH5 as the camera of choice for content creators. I just wonder what Canon has in store with the EOS R6. Will the R6 live up to the hype or disappoint like the EOS R and RP? I have a Canon lens library, but if the R6 disappoints, I'll be getting myself an XT4. This is the best APS-C camera on the market today. The GH5 gives us more assists in terms of waveforms and vector scopes, but the autofocus just doesn't stand up. The Canon 90D gives us more value. If you are first and foremost a photographer, then stick with the XT3. The upgrades in the photo mode are modest at best. However, if you're a video shooter first, this is the best there is right now in the APS-C sensor market, and it even beats out many full-frame cameras in video capabilities. It absolutely trounces the EOS R and RP and is the perfect vlogging camera. Casey, is this your perfect vlogging camera?
Thank you for watching The Ordinary Filmmaker. All equipment used and notes are placed in the description box, show more box, or down arrow thingy next to the title on the mobile app.